So I wanted to kind of bring up something very quickly. I'm not going to do too terribly long an episode. Um, by the way, this is News Desk, part of the Closing Tag Network. I wanted to briefly touch on something kind of disturbing. So, in case you've been living under a rock or have been sick for the last week, uh, there's been a lot of crazy shit going on in the world. But we're only going to focus on two things in particular with this particular episode. The first one, and they're related, by the way. The first one being Jeffrey Epstein. Yes, that news is back. So, Jeffrey Epstein's mistress, wife, girlfriend, whatever, Ghislaine Maxwell. And yes, I was only 3 days ago old when I finally learned how to properly pronounce her name. Some documents have been released in terms of, what's going on with that whole situation. And among those documents has been a flight list and also a list of testimonies and written statements from the victims of Jeffrey Epstein's sex trafficking ring. Among the names that were mentioned were obviously Donald Trump, obviously Bill Clinton, but also a little bit surprising, maybe more than a little bit surprising, Stephen Hawking. Yeah, that's a shocker to me too. Now, we don't know for sure where those names pertain as far as were they on the flight list, were they just names brought up during questioning, during the written testimonies. Like Bill Clinton's name kept coming up during the testimonies. For instance, the prosecutor would ask the 15 or 16-year-old girls, was Bill Clinton ever in the room? And that counts as a mention of Bill Clinton in the documentation. So apparently Bill Clinton's name was mentioned at least 70 times, as well as Donald Trump's. So keeping that in mind, keeping all of that in mind, there's a lot of misinformation that's floating around out there. There's a lot of people that are just throwing shit at a wall to see what sticks. And it's been that way ever since Epstein, depending on who you believe, either killed himself in prison or was killed by someone more powerful than him, depending on who you believe. And I want to caution people to take everything that is said from unofficial sources, unofficial, Twitter accounts, X accounts, whatever you want to call them these days, or social media posts or anything. Take everything on social media with a mound of salt. And that kind of leads to the second thing I wanted to talk about very quickly. And that is Jimmy Kimmel. So recently, on an ESPN talk show hosted by former NFL punter Pat McAfee, he had current New York Jets quarterback Aaron Rodgers on his show. Aaron Rodgers has already, dug his feet into the conspiracy theorist realm. He's not quite at Alex Jones level yet, but he is quickly getting there. And the reason I say that is because he made a comment on Pat McAfee's show where he insinuated that Jimmy Kimmel was on the Epstein list of celebrities and prominent figures that visited the Epstein Island. Now, Kimmel could have just let it go, just let it, just like not even given it the dignity of, the time of day. But he decided to quote tweet Aaron Rodgers on Twitter, X, whatever the fuck, and threatened to sue him. Basically saying, if you want to discuss this matter further, we can discuss it in court. Something along those lines. Rodgers has yet to respond, publicly or otherwise. So this brings up something that I want to talk about. I wanted to bring this up because I got into an argument with someone on social media yesterday. That's my first mistake, getting into an argument with someone on social media. At this point, I'm blocking anybody that is sharing Alex Jones bullshit or, is firmly in the camp of Trump is right all the time and you're wrong all the time. Because those people, in my mind, are beyond help at this point. So the argument that I got into yesterday, and I wanted to kind of touch on it here, is, well, if Jimmy Kimmel is innocent, why is he making such a big fuss about it? Well, as Kimmel put it, as Kimmel mentioned, his family has been put in danger as a result of this false information that's floating around. Now, I want to kind of put you, the viewer, listener, whatever, into Jimmy Kimmel's shoes for a second. Let's say, for instance, Aaron Rodgers or Alex Jones or whoever has a voice big enough that people actually listen to. Let's say, for instance, someone like that came out and said, well, you, kind viewer, kind listener, are also on the Epstein list. By associating you with a known sex trafficker and pedophile, by association, you are now viewed as a pedophile. So now you are being viewed as a pedophile by everybody. Your family, your friends, your coworkers, your colleagues, your buddies that you go drinking with at night, your neighbors. Try to imagine for a second. I know it's hard for some people to put themselves in other people's shoes that they'd rather just not. But for a second, put yourself in Jimmy Kimmel's shoes. If you were associated with a known pedophile and sex trafficker like Jeffrey Epstein, you end up ridiculed during family dinners. If you're married, your spouse may question, what's going on, and take it from someone whose uh, relationship that was like a marriage ended as a result of lack of trust. Once the trust is gone, it is damn near impossible to bring back. So now your spouse is questioning whether or not you really are associated with this. Your boyfriend or girlfriend, significant other, may question whether or not you're actually associated with this. Your coworkers, your boss may call you into his office and fire you because they don't want the issues from your private life to start infecting your professional life and therefore affect the business. Your neighbors will start to question whether or not any of this is true. People that know where you live end up trashing your house, end up smashing windows with rocks or whatever, end up spray painting the word pedo on your front porch. All this stuff is very real right now for Jimmy Kimmel. Now, Disney's not going to fire Jimmy Kimmel. That's not something that's going to end up happening. But, friends could be questioning him. Family could be questioning him. He's probably already being harassed and ridiculed by his neighbors, by his friends, by strangers that just happen to know where he lives. All that stuff right now is very real for him. So yes, if I were in Jimmy Kimmel's shoes, I would be reacting the exact same way. And especially considering that I'm a father of a young girl myself. If someone accused me of having inappropriate relations with someone that's only a few years older than my daughter, that is a reason for me to start throwing punches. And I am not a violent person by any means. But if Aaron Rodgers said that about me, I would be looking for the next flight to New York so I would knock him the fuck out. So, Jimmy Kimmel, by all accounts, is handling this a lot better than I or anybody else would. So remember that the next time you share an unverified, unofficial list of people that just happen to be liberals or non-Republicans that were supposedly on Epstein's island. Remember that the next time you start sharing Alex Jones bullshit. Alex Jones, by the way, is still millions and millions of dollars in debt, having to pay the victims of the Sandy Hook shootings because he accused them of being crisis actors. So, yeah, I have no sympathy for Alex Jones. Fuck him. So, remember that the next time you share these things on social media. Remember that the next time that you affirm Aaron Rodgers claims that Jimmy Kimmel is on the Epstein Island list or the Epstein flight list or whatever. We don't know all the details about who is on the list, who is not on the list, who actually was physically on the island, who wasn't. For all we know, we may never know everybody that was on that island. We may never know all of the names that Epstein was associated with. We know 2. 3 if you count Elaine Maxwell. The 2 are Donald Trump and Bill Clinton. And we know this because we know that they've been photographed together. And by association, Hillary Clinton as well. That's all we know for certain. So please try to keep that in mind as you are watching all of this unfold on social media. And by the way, if you're getting your news from social media, that might be a red flag as well. Just saying. As I like to always say, verify what you're hearing, verify what you're watching, verify what you're reading. I always like to do the triple tap method. If I can't verify something from at least 3 different sources, independent sources, by the way, not your favorite Breitbart, Fox News bullshit. And by the way, CNN is lumped in there as well. You can't verify your sources or verify what you're reading from at least 3 independent sources. Maybe just don't share it. Let's try that, shall we? Cool. Like I said, I wanted to keep this one short because this is something that was bothering me this week with everything that's going on. But if you are interested in hearing more of these short little rants, subscribe to the channel on YouTube, hit the bell for notifications. That way, once a new video is dropped, you are one of the first people to be notified. Like the video on YouTube, like the video on Facebook, share, comment, leave a review on Spotify. Reviews are nice. And I want to show my appreciation to everybody that is listening, for downloading, for watching, for donating, doing everything you can to help support the podcast. Your efforts do not go unnoticed, so thank you. And don't mind the mess in the background. Yeah, kind of doing some cleaning. There was a mild little snowstorm yesterday, and I don't feel like shoveling or going anywhere. So I am doing some deep cleaning, and that's why there's a mess behind me. So there you go. I will probably be back either tomorrow or the next day, depending on when everything is released on all the platforms. So I want to again say thank you, and remember to include your closing tags. Thanks.